Hi, welcome back. So guys, as part of this session, let us see about an intro on a loops with an example. See basically what is a loop? The name itself will tell you. Perform an action repetitively for multiple times. So let us see an example for that to understand more about it. See, if I ask you to print hello world, okay, so I'm Surendra, something a message for 5 times, what you will be doing? So let me pull my editor, let me pull it up. So here, let me pull my second program. Okay, scc script dot js. Right, so this is what gonna be my second. So here if I asked you to write down to print Surendra, okay, console.log Surendra for 10 times, so or 5 times basically. So you will write Surendra for the first time, second time, third, fourth, fifth. Console.log, you just placed it for 5 times so that it will be printing down the same name to the console. But the point is, if I ask you to print it for 50 times, would you write the same console.log for 50 times? Even for the 5 times also, it's not looking good, right? Even for the 5 times also, it's not looking good. So definitely, instead of doing this activity in this way, we have to do it in an appropriate way. There comes these loops, and one among that particular loop is a for loop. See, guys, the ultimate point here, whether it is a for loop, whether it is a while loop, or a do while loop, the objective is one and the same, to perform a certain action for multiple number of times until the condition got a failed. Okay, in such a cases itself, we will be using these loops. The only difference is the syntax itself. Okay, the only difference itself is a syntax itself. Okay, the for loop has its own syntax, while loop has its own syntax, and the do while loop does has its own syntax. Three different syntaxes are there. That's it, nothing more than that. So let's get started with this particular for loop. So let us see the syntax for this particular for loop. Okay, so syntax for loop. Okay, syntax for the for loop. So ideally, see guys, if you remember in the day two or a day three, I guess we have utilized the copilot. So my copilot, whenever I'm typing something, my copilot is giving me these suggestions. When I'm writing down my code, my copilot is giving me the suggestions. If you look at it, I got a suggestion from my copilot, and I just pressed a tab operation and I accepted that particular suggestion. If you observe, as per this particular syntax, what it is stating is, first of all, initialization. You need to initialize a variable first, and on top of it, you need to specify a condition, and based on that condition, this loop will be iterated, and you just need to perform either an increment operation or a decrement operation. Basically, depending on that, it will be executing that. So how this is gonna work out the for loop? Initially, the initialization will occur. So consider that you have a defined number is equal to 1, and then it will check that particular condition. If that condition is true, it will proceed further. If that condition is false, it will not proceed into that, which we can say that the loop got terminated. Okay, so let us see a simple example for that. So for where I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. So you know that I plus plus, we have seen that increment that particular I by 1. That's what we have defined it. Okay. So it should be a where R is missing. Okay. Perfectly. All right. So here in this situation, console.log, this time I'm entering Surendra into that. Earlier, initially in the starting itself, I asked you to print Surendra for 5 times. If you observe, the for loop is starting at a I value as a 1. It will check the condition 1 is less than or equal to 5 or not. Yes, the condition is true. 1 is less than 5. It will come inside the loop and it will execute this one, and then it will perform the increment operation. Now I becomes 2 right now. Again, it will will check the condition 2 is less than or equal to 5. Again, it will perform the operation. It will increment it, it will perform the operation. Consider that a 3, 4, and a 5. As of now, I is a 5. 5 less than or equal to 5, the condition is a true. It prints the information. Now, I becomes a 6 after this increment. 6 less than or equal to 5, the condition got a failed. Hence, it will be printing only 5 values. To understand more about this one, I am adding a console.log of I. So when I run this particular program, if you observe Surendra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the 5 different times, the values got printed down to the console. This is how the for loop is gonna work out, guys. Okay, this is how the for loop is gonna work out. Perfectly all right. So this time, instead of a 5, if I change this number to 100, okay, if I change this number to 100, 1 to 100, all the values would be printed down to the console. Perfect. So for these guys, for this for loop, we can add a small tweak, which is the condition that we have studied earlier in the previous session. We studied about the conditions, right? So what I want to do here is write a program that will be printing numbers from 1 to 100, all even numbers. So basically write a program that will be printing all even numbers that are ranging from 1 to 100. So here in this situation, okay, let me copy this for loop, comment it out, create a new for loop. I don't want this console, this one. So here, before printing it, we want to check whether that particular number is even or not. So how are you confirming whether it is a even number or not? So guys, if you remember, when we studied about the operators, we have studied about the module operator. Anything a module divided by 0, which is an even number. Anything module divided by 0, that itself is an even number. Okay, so from the for loop, we are getting a I module 2. If it is equal to 0, then it is an even number. Okay, then it is an even number. So inside the for loop, instead of directly printing this information, if I module 2 is equal to 0. If this is equal to 0, console.log of I. That's it. I was just utilizing that. So initially the I value is a 1. 1 module 2 is not equal to 0. So that it will iterate and it will perform these operations. Let me run it and let me check it out. See, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All the even numbers are got printed down to the console. This is the way how exactly we can get the even numbers. For suppose if you want to get an odd numbers, so basically if the I module is equal to 1, then it will be printing down all the odd numbers. Okay, then it's gonna be printing down all the odd numbers inside that. And if you guys remember earlier, we used if condition, inside of which we have also used another if condition, right? The same way here, inside a for loop, you can also use another for loop. This concept we call it as a nested for. So here, if I less than or equal to 5, and in this for loop, I'm creating a one more for loop where j equal to 1 and j less than or equal to 5, j plus plus, console.log of a j basically. Okay, and this time what I'm doing is, for my better understanding, 10 to 15. Okay, 10 to 15. And here Surendra and I. Okay, and here what I'm doing is Jagannadham comma j. That's it. So this is what I was just printing it up for the for loop. So if you observe, for Surendra 1, the Jagannadham is executing for 5 different times. The reason is, if you look at it, the I value is 1. it came inside, and then this for loop will execute for five different times. And when the I becomes a 2, again this j for loop will execute for 5 times. When I 3, this j for further more times, like that this whole cycle will be executing. So this is the way how exactly we can use a for loop. In the next session we will be looking at a while loop with an example. Thank you.